I want to kind of go through some of the pictures here, bodybuilding pictures. Every time I've had to guess, I show to him. I think the first time I did it with Dorian Yates. Yates started, I don't know if you've seen that one when Yates is, looking at the pictures. And then I did it with, we had Flex and Ronnie and Brandon Kurt. We had a bunch of these guys. Sean Ray showed up even. I think we did Sean Ray and we did Dexter. Dexter, to me, one of the sickest physiques, the way his pictures would come up. Rob, can you pull up some of these pictures? I just want to get your thoughts on some of these pictures here. When you think about Mr. Olympia competitors, and we can start off with him. When you think about Sean Ray's physique, historically, everyone's always called his physique one of the greatest physiques of all time. He never won, but I think he's been in the top 3 more than anybody else. There's a statistic about how many times he was in the top 3 more than anyone else. Mm-hmm. What do you think when you think of Sean Ray's physique?
I think he had a beautiful classic physique for sure. I don't even think he'd make the weight limit for classic anymore, honestly, because he was a little bit shorter. But great lines, great physique. He had that small waist, and he had that very symmetrical physique. A lot of my physique, I have to pose to make it look a little more symmetrical and give the illusion. He could stand straight on. The more straight on you can hit every pose, no angles or anything, shows you that you're not hiding anything, and it's just perfect. He has, everything bubbling, rounding, pop.
How do you think he would do in today's classic? You think he would?
I don't know if he'd make weight.
You don't know if he'd make weight?
I think he'd be a little heavier, yeah. I mean, he looks a lot bigger than a lot of the guys you see right now in classic, so it's hard to say. I don't know what he weighed or how tall he was.
What would be the weight? What's the weight you have to hit?
It's a ratio of your height to weight. So I'm not sure exactly how tall he is, but for me at 6'1", it's 240 pounds.
He would make it. Can you pull up a Sean Ray competition height weight? I like that. The fact that there's a ratio of height to weight. I actually love that. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. So 5'6", contest he was 205.
5'6", wow. 205.
215.
I think 215 is definitely way over. But I think 5'6" he'd have to be 185 to 190, if I'm correct.
So if he's 5'6", he would need to be 185, 190 to compete.
I think. But quote me on the...
Even if he gets to a weight like that, do you think how do you think he would do in a classic today?
He'd be right up there for sure.
He'd be right up there. Okay, so let's go to the next one after Sean. If you got whoever you want to go to next. Who's this? Kevin Levrone, one of my favorite physiques of all time. When you look at Kevin Levrone, go to the picture to the left right there, second row. First picture right there. You see this. Just click on it. Let's go to it and see. Look at this guy.
Ridiculous.
Oh, it's a video. Okay, go back to whatever it was on the... You have to go through. Yeah, there you go. When you see Kevin's physique, what do you think about with Kevin's physique?
Again, I mean, all these guys from this era were... So the guys who didn't win the Olympia in this era were just wrong time. They were around a lot of great people. Yeah. I think a lot of these guys, if you spread them over time, would have won Mr. Olympias in their own way. But they were all against some crazy competitors, and he had a great physique. And it's hard to compare a lot of these pictures because back then there was a little bit of a different look. There were some, in this era they were still just as lean. Cameras were a little different. Sometimes you watch the old videos that are a little grainy, and it makes them look more grainy. Yeah. It's hard to compare now with the 4K cameras and everything. It's a lot different. But he was one of the guys who looked amazing. And this was, I think, peak open size.
Him right here?
Like this, when his era around now.
I see what you're saying.
If open had stopped around that cap rather than keep pushing those limits. So
this was the peak of the bodybuilding open era for Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, and it's difficult because someone like Ronnie Coleman came around and he could hold 300 pounds and still look aesthetic because he's a one-of-one,
Got it. Keep going. Go to the next one, Rob. Sergio, are these some of the guys that maybe, when you see a Sergio, his son is now competing as well.
Yep.
And he's got a great physique as well. What do you think about Sergio's physique?
Also a great physique. I think this was back in the era when they were a little bit less dry and a little bit less lean, which I know a lot of people also liked. A little bit healthier as well, but everything progresses. Every sport you see continuously progresses. So it's hard to say that anyone would still appreciate looking at someone who's not quite as lean. But amazing physique. He had one of the smallest waist-to-arm ratios that anyone's ever had.
One of the smallest waist-to-arm ratios. Wow, he had. Yeah, but just look at his eyes. He looks like a king. Yeah, he looks like, listen, I belong up here. Go to the next one, whoever we have next. Hadi, we have, obviously there's better pictures of Hadi. He's another guy that's loved as well. Mm-hmm. You talk to guys about Hadi, they have nothing but good things to say about him. What do you think about Hadi? I think Hadi's won it how many times now? 2 or 3 times? The Open?
I think he only won it once.
Did he?
He won it last year.
Let me see.
And then Derek beat him this year.
Oh, that's right. Because yes, you're right. He only won it once.
Yeah.
He only won it once because he won it before as the most people's champion. Yeah.
No, I love Hadi, and what I love about him is he trains like an absolute animal, and this is why a lot of people love him. He's coached by Hani, and I went down to Texas at about 3 weeks out last year, and we were training together, and he doesn't speak English, he speaks Farsi, and he's also kind of deaf, so he just kind of like, he's very nonverbal communication, and he's like, makes fun of me, teasing, cracking jokes, and then it's like time to do a set, and he's just like serious. He puts 2 more plates on, and Hani's like, you don't need to do that heavy. He's like, just shakes his head, puts another plate on, and just go ball to the wall. Just an animal in the gym.
So has Hadi forced you to learn how to speak Farsi or not yet? Like your Farsi isn't that good yet? No. Okay, I thought maybe
they taught me a few things when I was down there, but I forgot most of it. Yeah, I can't say that on there. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's typically one that they say that has 2-letter K's in it, but they know what I'm talking about. Go to the next one. I'm not gonna say this is
Serge. What
do you think about this physique? Like this is.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to keep pulling up, I'm assuming, some of the greats of all time. And the reason we're looking at their pictures is because they were the best of all time.
Yeah, Serge.
Nobret is just like...
There was something about Serge's physique when you look at this.
From shoulders to chest to like that dude, his waist.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
When they have that waist that looks like it's like pinched. Like
yeah.
But that's what you guys... That's when I look at the physique of... I put you guys in the same community because that's the body... Right, that's like the godlike body you want to recognize. Where, it looks, the body you look at that you appreciate. It's almost something you're never gonna achieve. It has to be the word unbelievable, right? It's not like believable, and some of it has to be not duplicatable because bodybuilding is not about being duplicated. It's about having great genes.
Yeah.
Like somebody can do all the steroids in the world. Dude, you're never going to look like that.
Nope.
This is not something that you're going to have. The genes factor comes with it as well. Keep going, Rob.
Which is funny because they call classic physique sometimes more attainable. When realistically, it's kind of like the more genetic freaks out there who just have the look you can't work
They call
for,
classic more attainable.
Yeah. Because it's 300 pounds versus 220 pounds. It's just...
The only thing I would say with classic physique to me is it's just going to get the right audience wanting to come in and see it more. And then you can have the other side for the biggest freak that if somebody wants to have that. But, even Flex, they call this one of the greatest pictures of bodybuilding ever taken. Maybe if not the greatest picture. This is, it just doesn't make any sense when you look at this picture with this guy. His body. He used to do training with Mike Matarazzo on ESPN. Have you had any interaction with Flex? Have you guys?
I have, yeah. He still comes around the shows a lot, and I've spoken to him. Yeah, he's a good guy, and definitely one of the physiques that I looked at, and I was like, this is it.
Who are your top 5 physiques? Like, who do you think about when you're like your top 5? Do you have a list?
I don't have a concrete list, but when I was younger, I really liked Barry DeMay.
Barry DeMay.
Yeah, he was just an all-American, like good-looking dude who had a classic physique-esque style. I would say in terms of like unattainable things, Flex Wheeler was one of my favorite for sure. He had the twisting back double bicep on his knees. That's one of the craziest pictures I've ever seen.
Yep.
But Barry DeMay was a guy that I really liked his physique of.
Who else? Anybody else that's a random name? Because that's a random name.
I like Bob Paris, the way he posed.
Yeah.
He was a little bit smaller guy, but really good look too. Very like aesthetic.
Yeah, Bob Paris's physique.
I took some inspiration from his posing routines and stuff too.
Were you a Gaspari guy, or
I wasn't a huge fan of his physique, but I definitely respected it.
Okay,
I liked it. Yeah.
Who else? Who else would you put on that list? These are interesting names you're given. Paris, the mayor.
I mean, if you ask me the greatest of all time, I'd still say Ronnie Coleman.
You put Ronnie as the GOAT.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Not that that's where I would ever want to see the
that
go,
is
but
that. Look at it, dude. His vein on his arm is bigger than my leg.
And there was a point where before he was at the beginning of his career, of his reign, the first 1 to 2, where I think he looked his best before he put on an extra 20, 30 pounds or whatever.
When he placed 16th, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? Or when he won?
No, when he won still.
Okay.
And the year before he won, just at the beginning of his reign.
So what year would that be?
That's a good question.
Put Ronnie Coleman first Mr. Olympia. Put Ronnie Coleman first Mr. Olympia. First Mr. Olympia. Go to the picture to the right of that. Is that the one? No, he was on the left. He's younger.
Yeah, look at that. He's young as hell. Look at his body, dude. His biceps look fake.
This guy, when he placed 16th, he was my favorite physique I would look at when I would buy Muscle Magazine and Flex.
Ridiculous.
But when he plays 16, you're like, this guy looks insane. His biceps would build on top of each other, and he had the layers on top of each other.
There's something too that like I always see the bodybuilding community just loves and respects about someone who's no bullshit, just loves to train, no drama, no gossip, just like in the gym, kicking ass, leaves and does their own thing, stays in their own lane. There's always people who come into the world of bodybuilding and people just love those people because
A guy like him, you're
a guy
saying?
like him, yeah.
Got
Not
it.
just a happy-go-lucky dude who just trains hard as fuck in the gym.
Yeah.
People just love it.
And I remember when I interviewed him, I said, Ronnie, have you ever gone to a fight in your life? Never. I said, you ever had a fist fight? Never. You've never had a fist fight? Never.
I mean, if you look at the guy, you're not going to want to fight him.
And then I said, you ever punch somebody in the face? I've never punched anybody. I said, not even as a cop? Never. He says, well, I did punch. And then he started saying a really classic story. He says, yeah, as a cop, yeah, maybe, but not. So click on that one right there, Rob, to the right, that shows all the years. Well, no, what you just had right there. Yeah, click on the bigger one. See if it does. Is it a video or? So let's see this one here. This is kind of transitioning from 98, 2000. Look at 01. Wow. Look at that 01 picture, Vinny.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, so you put him at the top. Rob, do you have any of the pictures of Chris and Arnold right next to each other? This is the main one that everybody compares. Look at those physiques. Go to the next one, Rob. Look at that. Look at the stomach and the waist of Chris. That just keep going. Keep going.
And Chris, that's just that's 24 hours. You just, everything you eat, everything has to be methodical. You can't even slip up at all.
Yeah, I mean, every single year I've competed, it's gotten more and more locked in, and you can keep seeing results, you know?
It's no joke.
This year especially, because I have a lot more going on now with the businesses and travel and just life, I started to realize I was kind of overexpending myself on too many avenues. And, you know, if you want to be the top 1% in anything, you can't be the 1% in the next thing next to it. It's got to be one. So this year, at like 10 weeks out, I had been traveling too much. I was a little too stressed. My body wasn't feeling too hot. I was in Canada, and I wasn't sleeping. I was overthinking. I had too much stuff on my mind, and it was just my body was in a high state of stress. And I tore my lat. I lost a bunch of weight. All this shit was going on, and I came home, and I was like, you're Mr. Olympia. Like, you can't do this by being a business owner and doing travel and all this shit. You have to just be Mr. Olympia right now. And I shut everything else out. I told my partners, I'm like, you got to take over the business and everything because I got to do this. And everything was sleep at 9 o'clock at the same day, wake up, do cardio at the same time, eat, nap, train at the same time. Everything was just perfectly regimented for the entire prep.
Chris, so,
This is when you went from 262 to 250. You lost 12 pounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a wild thing when it happens in that world because psychologically you're like, wait a minute, what is this all about?
Yeah.
It's a tough moment you're going through by yourself. And it's not like you're playing basketball or football that you have a teammate to rely on to come through that day because you're off. No, you are your teammate.
Yeah.
You are the guy that everybody's looking at. The pressure is a different pressure.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.